limb. But worse than the rock that hemmed her in, worse than the thickening air, worse than any of it was the terrible, menacing darkness all around her. Lupe was afraid of the dark. She had been afraid of the dark for as long as she could remember. It was a vague fear she couldn't even define, just a feeling that there was something waiting for her, watching. A something that lived in the dark. No, it was the dark. And it wanted Lupe. But it was rarely dark in Mexico City, even in the early hours of the morning. Certainly it was never dark in the 2-room apartment she shared with her sisters. The neon lights of the nightclubs across the street saw to that. Her night fears had been easy to laugh at until this moment. Now she was caught in the very heart of darkness. Thick, hot darkness that seemed to flow sluggishly around her, seemed to be oozing into her very pores and trying to force itself down her throat until she choked on it. She could feel it now. She gasped, coughed, and frantically scrabbled again at the wreckage hemming her in, whimpering and hardly realizing she was doing so. She had barely enough room to crouch. Impenetrable rubble formed a tiny pocket around her, like the pocket holding the larvae of a tourist's jumping bean. But the larvae would grow wings and escape. She never would. She would die here, and the dark would eat her bones. She wailed and pounded at the wall before her with aching hands. Trapped. Trapped. Lupe's mother had had no patience with her child's phobias. The census said they were mestizo, but Paloma had told all her children that they were truly Azteca and descended from priests. "Look for yourself if you don't believe," she had told them all, and more than once. "Go to the museum and see for yourself." And so dutifully they had gone, to see their own high-cheekboned, beaky profiles. So unlike most of their school friends' round faces and snubbed noses, echoed at them from pots, from paintings, from bas-relief. "You are of noble blood, the blood of warriors," she had scolded Lupe when the girl confessed her nightmares. "How can you be so afraid?" "Mamacita," she cried out in her mind, "what good is noble blood when the earth shakes? What good is descent from priests when the dark comes to steal my breath?" She sobbed, the thick air tasting of her own fear. The smell of her own sweat was rank, sickening the dark further. Her eyes were burning with tears as she continued to beat at the unyielding wall before her. She knew it was useless, but what else was there to do? It was either that, or curl into a ball of misery and die, or go mad. Maybe the Virgin would grant a miracle and someone would hear. She forced herself to pound on the wall while her arms grew weary and fists numb. Pound, pound, pound. Then the wall moved. She started back, hugging her bruised fist to her chest with an involuntary intake of breath, afraid now that she might have triggered a fate worse than the one she sought to escape. The second falling of rubble that would crush her. When nothing else happened, she reached out with one hand, hard in her throat, and pushed tentatively at the spot that had yielded. Again it moved outward just the slightest bit. She tried to think when the movement brought no corresponding descent of stone on her head. What direction had she been kneeling? What lay before her? Carefully now she felt along the wall. It was flat, or nearly. Cracked. Cracks she could stick a finger in up to the first knuckle, but mostly flat. It must be the basement wall, then, rather than a tumble of concrete. She must be facing the back of the staircase. Maybe the quake had opened up a hole next to the foundation. Maybe it was even a way out. Lupe didn't hesitate any further. The thought of a way out gave her arms a new and frenzied strength. She shoved at the yielding place with all her might, bracing herself against the wreckage that held her trapped. Shoved until she thought she was going to tear herself in two. And when the wall suddenly gave way, she was unprepared and went somersaulting headfirst down a pile of dirt and rocks, hitting her head on a stone and nearly knocking herself out a second time. She sat up, after a long moment of dazed blinking at the false lights thrown before her eyes by the blow on the head. Then she moaned and groveled in the dirt, for she realized she had merely